Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. Join Stewart Heath for down-to-earth conversations with top professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders who have a story to tell. Let's get rolling.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. I am your host, Stewart Heath, founder and CEO of Harvard Grace Capital. We are very pleased to have with us this afternoon Jeremy LaDuke out of East Tennessee, and he is a founder of a marketing group, and we are going to get his story. So, Jeremy, thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Stewart. Thanks for having me.
Time is the ultimate resource, and we appreciate you sharing some of yours with us. So, Jeremy, over your career, is there a moment, or maybe more than one moment, that you would say was a game changer that put you on the path of where you are today versus perhaps where you thought you would be?
Yes, I would say when I'm thinking about one of the first things that comes to mind as to I think it wasn't like a hockey stick moment where we were going this way and all of a sudden it shoots up, but it was definitely that point in the road where we decided to change how we were doing something, and it shifted the direction that we were going in. And for me, that's when we started charging for consultation. So for the first probably 4.5 years of my business, I met with people, spent hours upon hours just meeting with people, talking them through their marketing, and giving them ideas, giving them just kind of unloading my expertise on them. And then they would walk away. They would take the ideas that I would give them and go down to the person down the road that was doing it for cheaper and use them there. And I can't remember whose idea it was to start charging for it, if it was me or somebody else on the team, or how we came to the idea of doing that. But we said, let's see if we can get something out of this, because if we're going to spend time and they're going to go somewhere else, at least let's get some money on the front end. And so we started out with a very simple, low cost, $99. $99 for what we started calling a base camp consultation. And that really, when we started doing that, it not only made what we were doing more valuable to the client. The minute that they had to write a check for something or hand over some money, psychologically it became more valuable. We not only got money from the consultation, but we also closed more deals because they saw us as more authoritative, because what we were giving them had more value to them. So we saw that be a game changer.
Did you do less consultations?
Do what?
Did you do less consultations?
Not on the front end. So what we learned over the years was $99 was still too cheap. So what we started off, and this was probably 4.5 years ago. It was right before, well, no, it was 5 years at this point. It was right before COVID, I think, when we started doing this. But what we started off doing for $99, we're now doing for close to $2,000. And wow. So, yeah, so we've made it a little bit more robust than what it was at the beginning. But that helped us as we grew and as our market kind of changed. That helped us weed out some of the tire kickers. So rather than when someone says, "Oh, I've got to pay you that much money to get ideas and perspective from you," that limits who you actually spend your time on. And so it's been helpful. It's been a good tool for us to understand who really is a good prospect for us. But if it hadn't started with that one little decision, let's just try $99. See if someone will pay $99 for this. That was a pretty big game changer for us.
No, that's great. I wish I had learned that lesson when I was a practicing CPA, and finally somebody had to tell me, because I would meet with anybody and spend a couple hours with them and like say, give them all kinds of advice, and then they'll go to H&R Block and get their tax return done. And if I had learned that early on, I might still be doing that kind of business. But I think when I was younger, I just wasn't, um, I wasn't confident enough to charge
I
for my own time on the front end.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's part of it. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they're really good at their craft,
yeah,
but we're not necessarily good at the sales part. Like I hate sales. I'm a great marketer, but I hate the selling process. But what I've run into time and time again in my interactions with entrepreneurs is if you're in that first year or two of your business, I can almost guarantee you need to be charging more.
yeah,
Unless you're in a very competitive environment where it's hard to have a lot of price fluctuation, there's a very good chance you just need to maybe even double your rates of whatever
yeah,
you're charging.
yeah,
It took me a while to understand that I should be and I deserve to be charging whatever the market can bear.
yeah,
And you can experiment with it, right? Like you
yeah.
try shoot, price someone to see if you can get it. If they can pay it, it's worth it. And as long as you're doing your job and you're getting what you said you were going to get, there's no reason why you shouldn't thrive by doing the thing that you love to do.
I've always wanted to understand how attorneys got so good at billing, and they're the ones that come up with what frankly is just outrageous hourly rates. And they're not ashamed about it. So there must be some class in law school where they pull them all to the side and said, "This is how you do it, guys." I didn't get that in business school. It doesn't sound like you got it either, but
Yeah.
they've got billing down. So similar.
They also have the arm to enforce it. I think that's the problem you run into as a small business is like if someone doesn't pay their bill, you're kind of just up the creek. You don't have any
That's
teeth to
true.
your
That's true.
to your bite, and so we've run
Billing
into
and
that a few times.
collecting are two different things. I learned that
Yeah,
pretty early on. I can
yeah,
bill you for whatever I want.
yeah,
Uh, Getting it collected is another matter. So
yeah.
anyway, similar to the first question,
Mhm.
Jeremy, is but sort of a negative side. Did you hit any bumps in the road along your career that were just unexpected? Potentially negative, but something you had to navigate through. And can you share one of those with us and tell us how you managed to get through it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I could probably, we could spend all day talking about
Yeah,
the all the bumps in the roads that we've hit.
sure.
I would say significant ones though that really changed and shaped the way that I did things. One is just hiring. I've learned I'm a slow learner at this, but I've learned that whole hire slow, fire fast. I'm still learning that, I think, to a certain extent. I haven't had to hire anyone in about 6 months, but the last person I hired, I had to let them go and tried to let them go as fast as possible. But still, that will hiring the wrong person it'll waste your time, it'll waste your money, it can hurt client relationships. It's just really guard who you're bringing on your team, and it can also hurt your team. So right now
Yeah,
we've got a team of 14 folks, and I try very hard to like only bring on people that I know are going to be an asset and make the team better. Even if they're not necessarily like as skilled as the rest of the team in whatever they're doing, I want it to be in terms of people and who they are as people. I want it to be as the best team that we can get. And so making sure you're and refining your process to make sure you hire the best people is important. I wish I had a bullet point list of this is how you do that. I don't. I'm kind of give people the benefit of the doubt probably a little bit more than I should when in this role as a business owner. But I think that's something that the faster you can learn that, the better.
Is there one key factor that you thought that you have discovered is the most important in hiring? I think it's a very difficult thing to do. I think it's the second hardest thing in business, second right behind marketing. So
I would say, and it's hard to really gauge this and get a feel for it, I think, but I would say humility is a huge factor, and just making sure someone is humble enough to admit when they're wrong, and teachable. If you can get someone that is humble but confident and can be taught and can isn't afraid of learning new things and shown how to do things better, you've got a lot to work with there. I think those are some of the key factors that I look for.
that's good. And without the humility, then they're likely going to come in and disrupt your culture and just even if they become a good contributor, they're probably going to have more negative impact than they do produce. It is. I've had very difficult time hiring the last few years, and so I feel you for that. And they certainly can be bumps in the road. Hiring the wrong person because they end up taking up more time than they do saving you time. As the
Yeah.
entrepreneur. So, how do you like to tackle learning new things? Share books, podcasts, whatever it is. How you stay current. That keeps you in a position to lead your organization.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, kind of all of the above. I kind of go through ebbs and flows of what I'm really doing. Um, uh, I love to read. Don't get much time to actually sit down with a book and read, but
Right.
that's one of my favorite ways to learn. I love to be able to underline things and whatnot. But when I can't do that, I'm usually listening to audiobooks or podcasts. And sometimes it's all tied together. So I'll listen to a podcast and hear about a book, and I'll go buy it or download it and listen to that, and it may reference another source, and so I'll try to kind of go through that, but also just uh, staying aware of the kind of the breaking news type of things that are happening in our industry with marketing. It's something new every day. Like it's exhausting in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
because there's just social media is in a constant flux. Trends are always going here and there. So having some source to just kind of like see the headlines and kind of have an idea, kind of a bird's eye view of what's going on in the marketing world is important for me. So I've got a couple of apps that just kind of aggregate all of that info, so I can just kind of skim through it. But if I had to pick one more than the others, I would say podcasts. I love podcasts because they're that's short, digestible episodes that you typically get a lot of good info out of,
Yeah.
like this one.
Thank you for that. Checks in the mail.
Yeah.
Is social media marketing really all that effective?
I would say the vast majority. All right, don't quote me on this. This is
We're not recording this or anything, Jeremy.
yeah, right. The vast majority is probably not, right. But when it's done well, it's very effective. And we can point to like major brands that are doing it really well, but that's probably not the boat that most of your listeners are in. And so it really depends and varies from business to business, especially if you're a local or a regional brand. success for you on social media is going to be different than it is for the next person. But yeah, I would say when it's done well, it can be very successful.
Um, I sort of have come to believe, and we have a team that we spend an awful lot of time generating content. Some of it's email content, but most of it's also social media, and we got a pretty good email program going on with lots of people and lots of pretty high open rate. Um, but then we spend all this time doing all these posts and all these different platforms, and I just feel like it's a tax I have to pay because if somebody then wants to learn about me, they're going to go to LinkedIn or they're going to go to Facebook and and all that stuff better be there,
Yeah.
or else you're not credible. So I guess it's supportive in a way, but
Yeah.
I don't know that we're maybe it's confirming leads, but not generating leads, kind of a thing. So, but I ask that question probably 4 times a week. Is this doing anything?
Is this worth yeah, is this worth
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
And yeah. Uh, and again, I think it kind of varies from industry and business to business.
sure.
For most businesses, I think it's like what you said. It's kind of that the confirming leads. It's what you have to do. It's like putting your pants on in the morning. Like you've got to be on social media in some form or
Yeah,
fashion.
yeah,
I used to have this. We teach a lot of workshops, and I had this matrix that I would show, and you can imagine a grid. And in the top right quadrant, if you happen to be you have a very interesting business, and you have a very charismatic personality, you can be in this top right quadrant. Social media is going to be super easy for you, right? If you're doing something super exciting and you're good on camera, you're going to have a good day. You're going to get all sorts of likes and shares and go viral a few times. It's going to be good. If you're in that bottom left quadrant, if your business is very boring and you have a dull personality, you're going to have a hard time. It's going to be a lot of work for you.
yeah,
And so, and there are those businesses, and that's fine. But you've just got to
yeah.
figure out how do you not waste time on social media. Social media might not be the channel that you invest a lot of time and resources in if it's going to be an uphill battle for you,
Okay.
and figure out where is your time better spent.
Yeah. That's good to know. So, all right, let's pivot. I always like to ask my entrepreneurs, and we're not looking for personal information, but successful entrepreneurs generally have some investable cash outside of their organization that they've either generated or whatever. We'd like to know what you do with it. Are you really big into crypto? Are you a massive stamp collector? You're thinking Beanie Babies are going to make a comeback, or are you sort of a stocks and bonds kind of a guy? What do you do with your personal investable dollars?
I lose it, Stewart. That's what I do.
The long
I
answer.
gamble it and lose. No, so I always tell people I'm like I don't want to go to Vegas. I love gambling. I love taking risks. I love doing that, but I have the worst luck, right? And so when it comes to like taking money, cash money, and putting it on something, I try not to do that too often. I will say this though, the things that I can control are the things that I like to invest in more, and so I've been able to get a few things started. So Epic Nine has been kind of that's the original thing that I started, but we've had a few things spin off from that, and that's really what I like to reinvest in is things that I know are going to I have my hands in it. I know the lay of the land. I know what success looks like, and so that's what I shoot for. Now, I will say, not all of those things have succeeded. Where there's been a couple that have been complete flops, but uh, a couple of them have done well. So that's what I like to do.
You sound like most entrepreneurs, and I am one too. And the older we get, it's more like it's a condition that we have, being
Yeah.
an entrepreneur versus a life choice. I mean, I have started dozens of businesses. Yeah,
Yeah.
two of them are still in business.
Yeah.
you know, and so it's
Well, we
I
did this
understand.
we did this thing. I was like, I thought it was gonna, just put us on the map. It was gonna be a great thing. During COVID, when everybody was quarantined, we had developed this. We were working with a food pantry, and they needed a way for people to kind of check in and register from their cars. And so we developed this online database app where people could go in and fill out their information, and they could, say like, I'm allergic to peanut butter, so that they wouldn't put the peanut butter in the bag, all this sort of stuff. Developed this out, and we said, hey, you know what? This could be used for other food pantries. And so we spent about a year developing this app that we were going to launch, and we had a whole food bank network that was getting on it and using it. And then, like, probably a month before we were really planning to let it go and launch it, the main, I can't remember the name of the company, but it was like the main food bank software company that was a part of like every food bank in America. Said, "Hey, we've got this thing that'll allow you to allow people to register with you remotely and pretty much do everything that ours did." But they were already in every food bank, and so we were just sitting there like, oh, well, glad we found this out before we started putting marketing dollars behind it. So yeah, so that was probably one of my biggest
Timing is
flops.
everything, isn't it?
What's that?
Timing is everything, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. All right, coming down to our final question here, Jeremy. If you're mentoring somebody or somebody just wanted to follow in your footsteps, what one piece of advice would you give them?
Don't. No.
Don't go into marketing.
Don't follow these footsteps. It's gonna be a crazy journey for you. No, I'd say if I was mentoring somebody, I would say one, I think in business, in your business relationships, in your life in general, I think humility is a one of the best characteristics you can practice and figure out. It helps you be a better leader, and it helps you just not ruin business relationships as well. And so, I'd say just practice and try to perfect as much as you can humility in your own life.
It's a good word. It's a good word. Humility is huge in being a leader. And there's all kinds of leadership styles. So that's a good word. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for taking your time. Anybody with the title founder, CEO, president, whatever, we have no time. So we thank you for sharing yours with us today. And I hope the audience will come back and watch another episode of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Stewart. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for tuning in to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. If you'd like to be a guest, visit growthgraceprosperity.com/guest. We'd love to hear your story.